Hello everyone, this is my second video and I'm working hard to improve the quality of your experience while listening to these stories. Today's story is from a man who works and lives on a ranch in Montana. This story will have more than one part. What this man experienced happened for quite a while. If you have not already, please like and subscribe and turn on the notifications bell so you will know when the next video is released. Thank you for watching. Now let's begin. Hello. Please keep me anonymous. Okay, I will try to keep this as short but detailed as possible. Let's see, where do I begin? I live in Montana. Don't want to say where exactly though. My family jointly owns a decent sized cattle ranch with a couple other families. I have worked there for years. Hard work, let me tell you. I never believed in anything paranormal, never believed in aliens, nothing. Not until about 4 years ago. It was June in 2017. I was out riding the ranch, just checking on the property, when I came up on one of the cattle lying dead in the grass. This happens from time to time, so I was not surprised by it. I rode up to it and got off my horse to investigate. The first thing I noticed was it was missing its eyes. Nothing out of the ordinary though, since the turkey vultures like to go for them first. When I was walking up to it, I could tell something was off, but I was not sure what. Then I realized that there was no blood running down under the eyes, not like normal. I looked closer, and it didn't look anything like how it would normally look, like when the vultures get to them. It was like the eyes had been perfectly removed. Now, remember, at this time, I didn't believe in any kind of alien stuff or anything. That never even crossed my mind. But it was so weird, so I guess I just kind of took a mental note of it. I continued to investigate how it had died. I walked around to its belly side, like how it was laying down. I looked at its neck, expecting to see bite marks from wolves. That is our biggest problem up here. I noticed there was no bite marks, no blood, nothing to indicate it was wolves. I looked to the belly to see what had happened, and again, no blood or anything. As I looked closer, I noticed a very faint line of red going down the belly. As I leaned down to take a closer look, I lost my footing in a rut and fell forward, putting my hand out to catch myself. When I did, my hand landed on the side of the cow, and its whole midsection just kind of collapsed. This awful hot stench came out and filled the air. Trying to keep myself from vomiting, I looked at the partly collapsed cow and noticed that where I had saw that faint red line was now open, and I could see into the cavity. I took out my buck knife, then used it to lift up the opening. The whole red line began to peel apart, similar to how your lips come apart when you are hot and dehydrated, like they are stuck together. As I lifted up, I looked inside, and there was nothing. Not one single organ was inside of the cow. It freaked me out, but I was not thinking aliens or anything at the time. I could not believe there was nothing inside and no blood anywhere. It was the oddest thing I had ever seen. I called one of the other guys who I knew who was on the property somewhere working on some fences. I told him he needed to come out to where I was and check this out. He told me to give him a few, and he would come out there. While I waited for him, I kept inspecting the cow. No eyes, no organs, no tongue, no blood. I could not wrap my head around it. I don't scare too easily, but I had a really uneasy feeling. 15 to 20 minutes went by, and the other guy showed up in his pickup. I began to show him everything, and we both were trying to figure out what could have possibly happened to this cow. When we could not figure it out, we agreed to just leave it there and get back to work. When cattle die out there, we leave them and let nature reclaim them. I finished working that day and went back to my house and showered so I could go and meet my girlfriend at the time. We were having dinner at her parents' house. We had been dating for about 2 years at the time, so I was pretty friendly with her parents. We all ate dinner and went out back to hang around the fire pit and drink some beers. I told them about the cow I had found, and her dad was like, "That sounds like aliens to me." I just laughed and asked, "What are you talking about?" He started to pull up a bunch of articles on his phone about animal mutilations and was showing them and reading them to us. Since I had no other explanation, it made sense, even though I was not convinced. He told me I needed to go back and take pictures and contact the sheriff's office. We ended up staying the night there that night because I had had too many beers to drive. In the morning, when I got up and was about to leave, my girlfriend's dad stopped me and reminded me to take some pictures and to call the sheriff. Then he asked if he could follow me out to the ranch and take a look himself. I told him I didn't mind if he did. He suggested we have the sheriff meet us out there, so he gave them a call. Then we got ready and he followed me out to the property. When we got to the property, I loaded up one of the work pickups with some supplies I'd need for the day. He gave me a hand and we drove out to where the cow was. Now this is a fairly big ranch, but I know it like the back of my hand. I grew up there and I've been there for years. When we started to get to where the cow was, I began to get that uneasy feeling again, and that intensified as I pulled up to the spot to see the cow was gone. I said, "Where did it go?" And her dad asked, "Is this the right spot?" I told him yes it was, and I called the other guy who was out there with me the day before. Even though we never really moved the cows, unless it's somewhere near a water source, which this was not, I thought maybe he had done something. When I talked to him, he told me that he had not, so I called the other guys who were working the day before and asked all of them. None of them even knew about it. While I was making these phone calls, the sheriff called her father's phone to let us know he was on the property, so we headed back to the front gate to meet him. We spoke with the sheriff for about 20 minutes. My girlfriend's father and the sheriff were both talking about it being aliens. They were laughing it off, though. I apologized to both of them for wasting their time and told them someone must have done something with it. I told them I would figure out who, and I would let them know if we could still take a look at it. Then we all said goodbye, and they both left. All day, all I could think about was this cow and trying to figure out what could have possibly happened to it. I talked to everyone and got nowhere with it. No one knew what had happened to the cow. I finished working around 8 p.m. that day and went home. I stayed up until almost 2 a.m., looking up stuff about aliens and cows, animal mutilations, stuff like that. That is actually why I joined Reddit, because lots of my search results were 2 Reddit pages, and people talking about this kind of stuff. The more I read, the more interested I started to get. My house is on the ranch, a small modular home. Before my father passed, he and I and a few of the guys from the ranch built it in just under 2 weeks. So I live on the ranch, and now I'm getting into this alien stuff a lot, although I still don't really believe it. But I start going out at night and watching and looking, just trying to see if I can spot anything out of the ordinary. I do this for a few weeks, but there's nothing out of the ordinary. And I never did find that cow, or figure out what happened to it. About 4 weeks later, I was working one morning, and I got a call from one of the guys. He said we had a dead cow. I got excited and hopped into the pickup truck and headed to where it was. When I got there, I was expecting, or well, at least hoping, this cow would be similar to the one before. It was not. Still had its eyes, and everything seemed to be normal. Vultures had not even touched it yet. It was in the path that we would ride and drive, pretty close to the front of the ranch, so we decided to move it some and bury it. One of the guys brought out a piece of machinery called a bobcat, so we could dig a hole and we could move it and bury it. We tied off its legs and attached that to the bobcat so it could be hoisted up and moved over about 20-25 feet. As the bobcat began to lift the cow up, I was watching it, and I noticed it had that similar faint red line going down the middle of its underside. Right about the time I noticed that, the bobcat had lifted the cow up to where it was holding the entire weight. At that moment, its entire midsection just popped open like an envelope, like if you push it on both ends. I yelled to the guy in the bobcat to hold up, and I took a look. All of its organs were inside, but still, it had that same line going down its stomach. We all talked about it for a while, but everyone wanted to get it buried and get back to work. Since it still had all its organs, I figured, well, I guess we'll bury it. So I helped bury it, and I went on my way. This incident was not as weird as the first one, but to me it was still kind of weird. 2 nights later is when I had my first UFO encounter. It was about 10:30 at night, and I was out on my porch with the lights off, just looking into the sky. I saw a bright light in the corner of my eye and looked out over the pasture, and saw the light moving low over the ground, maybe 100 feet. I thought to myself, what the heck is a helicopter doing out here? Then it hit me. There was no sound, so I immediately thought, oh, aliens. I leaned in my door and grabbed the keys off the hook, then ran out to my pickup and started it and took off down the side road along the fence to where I could get out to the field. I jumped out of the truck, lifted the bar that held the gate shut, and swung it open. I jumped back into my truck and then started to go as fast as I could out to the field where this thing was. I could only go around 15 miles an hour though, because it's really bumpy out there. As I got closer, I began to try to make out the shape of whatever it was that I was seeing. The light coming from it was extremely bright, so much so that I could see the grass out where it was. I got closer, I'd say about 1/8 of a mile from it, and I made out that it was round, and not like anything I'd ever seen. I could make out the shape from the light reflecting off the ground back up to the craft. It was round on the bottom, and the top was round too, but it had this wavy shape to it. It's really hard to describe. I could try to draw a picture for you if you want, and I'll send it to you. I'm not artistic at all though, I'll warn you. I kept driving and got around 400 to 500 feet from this craft. I reached in my pocket to get my phone out and take a picture, and realized I had left my phone sitting on the table on the porch when I had been in a hurry to get out there. I just kept watching it for about another 30 seconds as I drove, and then I got that uneasy feeling again, and thought to myself, I shouldn't get any closer to this. I came to a stop in my pickup and put it in park, and stepped out. I just stood there watching it. Suddenly, all the lights around the side lit up, probably about 100 lights or so, and it began to spin. There was no noise though. The light coming from it was different than any other light that I've ever seen. I know that sounds weird, but there's no way to really describe it. It was bright white, and it was just different. It was like it was actually in the air. It began to spin faster and faster as I just stood there watching it. Each light seemed to go directly into my eye. Similar to how when you stare at the sun it blinds you. It was like that, but each and every light. So it made it appear as though everything I was seeing was flashing, even though the lights were not flashing at all. It became so unbearable that I had to cover my eyes. I felt sick to my stomach and dizzy, like on a ride at the carnival. I leaned into my pickup truck to sit down, trying to block the light from my eyes. Once I was seated, I moved my hand to try to get another look through my windshield, since I had my windshield completely tinted. I thought I would be able to see it better. When I looked, it was gone. I jumped back out to see if the tint was blocking my vision of it, but no, it was gone. I looked for it for a while, and then went back home, when I could not spot it any longer. I got back home on my porch, I grabbed my phone, and I immediately called my girlfriend's dad. He was asking me all kinds of questions, and I was just trying to tell him everything that I could remember. I still felt dizzy and sick to my stomach, so after our phone call, I went and laid down and went to bed. The next morning I got up and I felt fine, so I got to work on the property. Around noon, I got a call that we had 3 dead cows, so I asked where they were and headed out to location. I knew as soon as they told me where they were, it was right in the area that I had seen this craft the night before. As I drove, I spotted their pickup and immediately knew that it was in the exact same spot where the craft had been. Basically right under where the craft was. We had 3 dead cows, all right next to each other. No obvious signs of death. I didn't tell any of the guys what I had seen the night before, so everyone was trying to figure out what had happened. We decided to contact the animal doctor to have them come out and see what could have possibly killed them. We also had a company come out and test the water for any kind of contamination or something that would have killed multiple cows. Neither found any reason why the cows had died. It was all very weird to me, so after I was done working, I called my girlfriend's dad and asked if I could come over. We talked about what had happened, about the cows, and he had some theories. He had lots and lots of theories. After seeing this thing with my own eyes, I was absolutely sure something was going on. I wasn't sure that it was aliens. I didn't know what it was, but I knew something weird was happening on our ranch. At the time, I didn't know just how crazy things would get, but this was just the start. Things began to happen more and more over the next 8 months. I have seen over 10 UFOs now. I've had some really weird things happen to me. I swear that I have seen things looking through my windows and out on the ranch walking around. Other people on the ranch have talked about some weird things that happened to them too. We even had a couple new guys take off, no notice, and they never came back, after a couple of experiences that they had had. To this day, things still happen every once in a while, That first month and the 8 months that followed were the weirdest and craziest times of my life, though. I need to get some rest now. Gotta be up bright and early. If you are interested in hearing more of what happened, just email me and let me know, and I will continue on writing when I have the spare time. Signed, Anonymous. I want to thank all of you for watching this video. I am still learning how to make these videos better and to make your experience watching them better. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click the notification bell so you will be notified when part 2 of this man's story is released. I hope all of you enjoyed this video, and I'm excited to bring you more strange experiences and encounter videos. Thank you, and have a great day.